Plaintiff Terry Kellum was married to the defendant's brother when he was murdered. Terry claims after his death the defendant stole money from him, and then she refused to include Terry in the funeral arrangements. She's suing for stolen money and emotional distress. Defendant Lakeisha Williams says Terry and her brother had a tumultuous relationship, and Terry had him arrested 7 times for domestic violence. Lakeisha claims at the time of his death, Terry had a restraining order against him, and Lakeisha's suing for defamation and emotional distress.
Start with you.
I know Lakeisha because she is my late husband's sister. She did not respect, her or her family did not respect me and my husband's unity because they did not include me in on the funeral arrangement process. My husband was murdered on May 8th of this year.
Sorry to hear that.
And thank you, I appreciate that. And Lakeisha stole the money out of his pockets as well as left me and my kids out of the arrangements to his funeral. My husband was murdered on May 8th of this year.
Sorry to hear that.
And thank you, I appreciate that. And Lakeisha stole the money out of his pockets as well as left me and my kids out of the arrangements to his funeral.
Plaintiff Terry Kellum was married to the defendant's brother when he was murdered, but the defendant claims at the time of his death, Terry had a restraining order against him.
So how would you characterize your treatment of the plaintiff?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Terry Lynn and LaDon, my brother, they has been together for over 20 years. And during the whole 20 years, Terry Lynn have 2 kids by Don. She have 1 by somebody else. She have 1 by LaDon, then she had 1 by somebody else. During that time, from 2013 to 2019, LaDon has spent time in jail or on the run for domestic violences and TPOs that all has been dismissed. Terry Lynn and LaDon, their relationship has been rocky from day one. I never intervened. I never stepped in their relationship. I never took sides. But I just know...
Rocky in what way?
Every which way. LaDon...
Fighting or what?
I'm not for sure if it was fighting. I just know that I was the one, every time LaDon had a domestic violence charge, I had to go be the one to get the money or either go bail him out for these false charges, and they all was dismissed.
Okay, he was never convicted of anything?
Never
How many
convicted
times
of
was he
these
charged?
charges. It's a total of 7 domestic violence, if I'm not mistaken, Your Honor. When LaDon passed away, him and Terry Lynn had a TPO, so they was together, but they never were together. LaDon passed away living with my mother.
Temporary protective order?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, before we get into the details, did you want to address any of that?
Oh, sure. Lakeisha is a liar. That, yes, me and LaDon was into it a lot. LaDon has a mental problem. He was ADHD and bipolar. Like she said, we've been together for 20 years. I met him when I was 16 years old.
Did you know that?
Yes.
That he is bipolar? And,
Yes.
Well, I don't never being known that he's diagnosed. I guess that's something
He's been
that
diagnosed.
she's coming up with. So if she have proof then that he was
Okay.
ADHD.
Go ahead.
I've even taken him to the doctors and tried to get him on medication and everything because
How long ago was he diagnosed?
he's been diagnosed since he was a kid. He used to get checks and he was on medicine ever since he was a child. They used to crunch up his medicine and put it in his food, and she the one that told me that. So
You didn't tell her that?
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Okay, because if what you say is true, that's completely understandable what the domestic violence came from.
Exactly.
And you were being considerate enough, obviously, just to end it, because I'm sure you probably just didn't show up in court some of those times to
Right,
keep him from going to jail because you knew he had a mental illness.
yes, sir. That's
Got it. And you were hanging in there with him,
yes, I was.
doing the best you can. That's
Yes,
what it
I was.
sounds like.
And when he passed, we did have a TPO against each other, and we were going to court. He was so upset at me because I stopped talking to him because he acted out so crazy sometimes. He got so upset I wouldn't talk to him. He stabbed himself and went to the police station and told them I stabbed him. They took me to jail. I did the whole weekend in jail. When I got out, I vowed that I wouldn't even deal with him.
What happened to him?
He
With
was
the,
murdered by a
how-
16-year-old.
Give me the circumstances. What happened?
A 16-year-old kid. He, like I said, he's bipolar, so he was
Violent. He was
violent,
fighting
yes,
with the kid.
acting out arguing with the kid, and I'm not sure of the circumstances.
Was he medicated? Was he taking his medicine?
He stopped taking his medicine. He was self-medicating with street drugs.
Yep. So viewers, we all have these questions about being medicated. You can't counsel away a chemical imbalance. Bipolar is a chemical imbalance. You can't counsel that away. You go to counseling and the counselor will tell you whether you need the next step. Many people who go to counseling, they get better. But if the symptoms indicate that it's not something social, not something that happened to you, then they say, okay, time for you to go to the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist says, okay, from all you're telling me and all these symptoms, sounds like you have bipolar disorder. Or sounds like or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And for those two things, sir, you have to have medicine because it has to balance out the chemicals in your head. And so all the mothers, do everything you can not to put your child on medicine. Do everything you can. But if he's headed to jail and you have tried everything short of that, take him to the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist might say, well, he needs to be medicated because if he doesn't, he'll get killed. So you all just want to educate you on that. This is very serious. It's a very serious issue we're learning more about. And African Americans in particular carry this stigma that if you go to counseling or your child goes, there's something wrong with you. Well, if you don't go, there's something wrong with you, mama. And then, oh, he been eating too much sugar. It's the candy.
It's the candy.
Don't give him so much candy. And he won't be jumping around. No, it's serious, so get it checked out. Parents, don't you be negligent. Do your part. Americans in particular carry the stigma that if you go to counseling or your child goes, there's something wrong with you. Well, if you don't go, there's something wrong with you, mama. And then, oh, he been eating too much sugar.
Plaintiff Terry Kellum was married to the defendant's brother when he was murdered, but the defendant claims at the time of his death, Terry had a restraining order against him.
Tell me why you're suing about money and emotional distress.
My late husband, he had $2,578 in his pockets. Lakeisha and also her aunt, they signed the papers to release his body and they got the money out of his pockets. They claimed it was, they used it for the funeral. I wanted to be there, I tried to be there. We were supposed to meet up at 10 o'clock to go do it. I called Trisha's phone, like, where y'all at? Trish was very rude to me. Lakeisha was very rude to me. We out handling business, you out talking about you got stuff to do with your kids. Just talking crazy to me. And I lost my voice because I had no sleep. I didn't eat. I just was crying straight for 2 days. So I'm like, why is you yelling at me? I just wanted to know where y'all at because I'm on my way. I want to be there. I want to be there every step of the way to know what's going on with my husband. Well, we handling business. We out pricing stuff. We got 4 more funeral homes to go to. So I'm like, okay. So we got off the phone. I went home. I wiped my face. I calmed myself down. I called him back it was about 12 o'clock at this time. I said, where y'all at? They said, we at this funeral home. I was like, well, okay, I'm on my way. You don't got to come up here. All you need to do is tell this man on the phone that it's okay for to accept the money. And I was like, don't he need to see my ID? Don't I need to sign something? I'm his wife. Well, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. So I'm like, I'm on my way. I hung up. As I'm on my way, they had the funeral home director, which they have a personal relationship with this funeral home director. That's why he allowed them to sign the paperwork.
How is it that you want them to repay the money? Tell me what happened there. They took the money out of his pocket.
Yes.
So you want it as his next of kin,
right.
You're entitled to it.
Yes, but they claimed that it went toward the funeral. I wouldn't have never had a problem. I would have made sure the money went toward the funeral if that's what it was needed for. But the aunt here, Trish, she called me on a knife and told me, Terry Lynn, everything's paid for. You ain't got to worry about nothing. I got over $10,000. They love your husband. People pulling up on me, handing me money by the thousands. They love your husband. I'm going to even take you and your kids on the trip after the funeral.
Your Honor.
So,
You want to stand up, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
State your name.
Patricia Williams.
What do you want to say?
She's lying from the part about I called her and said we collected money. We didn't collect a dime for no one. Our family came together and paid for his whole funeral.
Okay.
She's worried about $2,500. We paid over $10,000 for this man's funeral.
If it was all paid for, what happened to the $2,578?
It went towards the funeral too.
So When you told her 10,000, that was after you had put the money in from out of his pocket?
Yes, all of it totaled up
She
to like
shook her head no.
$9,000.
Yes, that's true.
She said yeah,
That's
and
true.
she said no.
No, I'm saying from the beginning to the end, the story that Terry Lynn told is not true.
Your Honor, Trish did come to my house. When she was at my house, another relative, he's a business owner and he accumulates money or whatever. So he called and said, whatever the price is, I'm paying for the whole thing. So not only did they collect the money from the people, the donations that people gave them, the cousin paid for the whole thing, as well as they went in my husband's pocket.
Let me hear you all defend what she's alleging regarding her wanting the money that was in her husband's pocket.
Your Honor.
And then your counterclaim, yes.
When LaDon passed away May 8th, we asked Terry Lynn the next day, did she have life insurance? She stated that her family, her mom might have it. Then she said that she did not have life insurance. So me and my sister took action and did what we need to do to come up with money to bury LaDon. Whatever the money that LaDon had on him, like we stated to the funeral home man, whatever money he had on him, you can put that towards the funeral and we'll cover the remaining balance.
Your counterclaim is for what?
Your Honor, my counter sue is for $1,200. I am suing because in the process of us paying for this whole funeral, I also gave Terry Lynn a total of $1,220 after the funeral was paid for, just so her and her kids be able to have something to wear to the funeral.
$1,220.
It was $1,000.
She gave me $1,000.
It was $1,000. It was $1,000 for her cash. I gave her $200 to pay her mom for the church, and I gave her $20 for gas right after he passed away.
Your Honor, that's a lie. She only gave me $1,000, and she said she said I got $1,000 for you today, and I'll give you the rest of the money from them taking the money out of his pocket.
I
I gave it to her so her and her kids would be able to have something to wear to the funeral, Your Honor.
That was a gift, huh?
It was a gift, sir. After we paid this whole total, almost $10,000 funeral for my brother, because she wanted to get the money
How much
out of
did
his
you
pocket.
put on the funeral?
I put probably like $2,600 out of that total.
$2,500? And then
And so Terry Lynn,
Hold on, I'm asking the questions. Okay, so you put $2,500 on that? Mm-hmm. You put $1,200 in her pocket? She
Yes,
said
sir.
$1,000, but you said $1,200. So you did more than anybody, unless you could tell me somebody else that spent $3,700.
Plaintiff Terry Kellum was married to the defendant's brother when he was murdered, but the defendant claims at the time of his death, Terry had a restraining order against him.
All right, and your counterclaim is for what?
$1,200.
For what?
The money that I gave her.
You said it was a gift. You said gave.
It was
You
a
said
gift.
gave.
I
Remember
gave her
gift?
the money because she feel like she was entitled
First of all,
to.
ma'am, after you told me you gave her that $1,000
I
and
gave it to-
$200,
I
you
did.
convinced me right then that you took that money off of her husband. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff. Your claim is dismissed.
There's not a family. I hope she can find it in her heart to buy my brother a headstone with the money that she was granted.
We don't need them. My kids are going to be successful. They're smart. They're brilliant. They way better than them. They're weird.
You had sex with my
sex
son.
with your own brother, his cousin. You down there seeing him now.
And
You infidelity
you
with
mad,
his cousin.
you mad
and
or not,
running
you
down.
mad or not.
LaDon wasn't
You mad
dead
or not,
30
you mad or
days,
not.
and you running
You
down to
sick,
the
you
justice
sick.
center
To see
saying his
my
cousin.
son.
Chance.